Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Despite what my nameplate says, I'm not Jeff Rutledge. I'm Carolina Wigfield from MedResults Network. And today I have Dane Baker with me from SurgePoint. He will be presenting our first webinar of 2026, Fixing the Follow-Up Gap, Automation Techniques Used by Top Performing Med Spas. So Dane, I'll let you get right into it.
Amazing. Awesome. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. This is fun. And it's cool to see that we have this really cool automated background that showed up for me automatically and
Yeah.
my name's there and everything. This is cool. Thank you all for taking some time today. Hopefully this is going to be, interactive, valuable. Hopefully it's going to be educational. Hopefully you'll walk out of here with some real, tactical things to be able to implement into your spas and be able to grow. That's my hope. And we are recording this for anyone who is missing it as well, which is great. Excited to kind of dive in and kick off. So how I'm going to structure this is, I have some slides, but I definitely want this to be, like I said, interactive. So what I'm hoping here is that as we go, you either, I think there's a raise hand feature, so you can kind of raise your hand. You could type directly into the chat. There's a lot of different ways to interact, and hopefully I'll see it and we can I can answer your questions as they come up. That's the point, right? I want to make sure that if something doesn't slip through the cracks or you forget as we kind of go through this process. Um, so today, like the title of this webinar states, is we're going to be talking about the follow-up gap. We're going to be talking about different tactics that top spas implement to make sure that they're capturing as much of their value, as much value as they can from their patients, and that they're providing their patients a top tier experience. And this kind of entire topic, it spans kind of the entire life cycle. And so I'll be speaking about everything from speed to lead, right? When you have a prospective patient who's calling in and wanting to learn more, everything from that all the way through their life cycle to getting them to rebook for the 18th time and making sure they refer their friends, right? So the entire life cycle is what we're going to be discussing today. And so we're going to cover a lot, right? It's pretty broad. And so, like I said, I want to make sure that I'm answering your questions as they come up. And at the end, this is kind of a fun little spoiler to the end here. We will be providing you resources. Okay. Now, these resources are things like um, templates. Okay, templates for messages to send to maximize your referrals, to maximize your what we call kind of the commitment framework, making sure that your patients do actually show up. You'll be getting a lot of resources. You'll be getting a kind of a spreadsheet calculator to help you calculate and benchmark how your spa specifically is doing across these various aspects. So you're going to be getting a lot of things after this as a gift for registering and being here with us. So hopefully at the end of the day, you walk out of here with some very clear next steps on what to implement into your spa to be able to fix the follow-up gap and kind of guide your patients throughout the entire life cycle. And a little bit about who I am before we kind of dive in here is, I'm Dane. I am the founder and CEO of SurgePoint. We work with tons of spas to help them automate their customer communication kind of broadly. And this includes things like how to get more referrals, okay? How to get more rebookings, and kind of providing this sort of tool set for and software and AI tools for our spas to help them grow their businesses. So that's a little bit about who I am. But like I said, this is definitely not like a pitch in any way. This is just very um, true tactics that I've seen working with top spas. I want to share with you so that you all can benefit from them. So I think I can share my screen here. Hopefully you all can see this. Let me know if you cannot. I'm going to assume you can.
Yep,
So,
it's up.
okay, awesome. Thanks, Kara. Appreciate that. Amazing. So, we put together these slides, right? Now, the whole purpose here is basically like, okay, how can we set up processes in your spas that allows you to grow? And these aren't even, I also want to be very careful that I'm not saying setting up software or setting up tools. This is not even about tools and software. This is simply about processes that you can implement, whether you're paying for a software or a tool or not. Like I said, this is not a product demo or a pitch anyway. This is just about how you can set up processes to get the most out of your efforts, right? Because oftentimes you're probably paying a lot of money for leads in some capacity, whether it's advertising or it's giving a referral to a friend, right? A referral incentive to your patients. There's a lot of money that goes into this, and you want to make sure you're getting the most out of it. So um, let's dive right in. Okay, so the first thing I want to kind of discuss here is setting the stage a little bit. Okay, so um, most med spas that I work with, okay, they don't have a marketing problem per se. They have what I call a follow-up problem. And I'll explain a little bit more about what this means in the preceding slides. But um, generally speaking, okay, you're already generating demand. Okay, you have calls coming in, you have DMs, you have forms being filled out, you have referrals being generated, you have things that are happening, right? So you're generating demand. Now, typically, there are leaks throughout the life cycle, okay, that are important to basically to plug those leaks, okay? And the issue, typically speaking, is responding fast. And it's typically locking in commitment from your patients to make sure that they actually do show up for their appointments. Recovering things that slip, like, for example, if a patient cancels, right? That's inventory for you that you can resell back to the market. You don't want to have what we call the empty chair tax, okay? Also, things like um, manual follow-ups, right? After a patient comes in, right? The entire life cycle. These are kind of where these leaks typically happen. And like I said, your schedule, right? That's like perishable inventory, right? If a treatment slot goes empty, you can't really sell like today, you can't really sell it tomorrow. Especially if you paid for this lead with ads or anything else, like it's directly costing the business. And so typically what we also see is front desks that are slammed, right? They're running around with like a chicken with their head cut off because there's so much happening at any given time. There needs to be kind of a calm in the storm, so to speak. And the ironic thing is all that money that you're spending on leads, the top of the funnel, right? That's usually making that whole thing worse. So we like to say, you don't have a marketing problem, you have a response, commitment, and a salvage problem. And I'll explain all this in a moment. The good news, though, okay, is that the fix here, okay, it's pretty straightforward. Now, it's not easy, like nothing that's worth it is easy. It's just straightforward. And you'll be getting today kind of a walkthrough of how to go about um, fixing those leaks. So, like I said, I want to make this as interactive as possible. So I think I can see the chat. Now, I'd love to know it. Are those that are here currently running ads? Just feel free to drop it into the chat and say yes, no. Are you running paid ads today? Yes, no. Anyone? Anyone? I know the chat sometimes hard to find. It's at the bottom. Um, I'm going to assume that we are, okay? I'm going to assume that we are because I think that is a pretty safe assumption in today's day and age. Now, if that's the case, there are a few things that are really, really important here. Okay. So the first is speed to lead. Okay. Speed to lead. Basically, what this means is how fast are you at going from, oh, cool, a poll. That is awesome, Kara. Thank you for doing that so quickly. I like it. Okay, so there's a poll for you here on the screen. Kara is on the ones and twos in the background here, just doing awesome work. Thank you. So if you wouldn't mind just filling out a simple yes, no, are you running paid ads for this poll? It's gonna help. It's gonna help us understand a little bit more about your businesses. Okay, I'll continue on while you all fill out that poll. So, like I said, speed to lead. Okay, what is that? It's basically the time between when a lead shows interest to when you get in touch with them, right? Simple as that. Now, that could mean someone calling in. That could mean someone filling out a form on your website. That could mean someone texting you. That can mean a lot of different things. And then getting back to them and getting in touch with them basically is and also ultimately booking them, right? Is the speed to lead piece. Now, this stat here is kind of the reason that automation exists. So when someone reaches out, right, like I just said, timing's everything. 5 minutes, okay, is the ideal response time, but the average for humans is 30 minutes. And that's actually during business hours. And the difference between 5 minutes and 30 minutes isn't small. In fact, it doesn't, it seems like maybe that would be, okay, maybe it's only a 25-minute difference, but really what's happening here is the odds of connecting drop dramatically between once you get to the 30-minute mark. They're actually 100 times worse. And that was from an MIT study, actually. So what's happening here is basically people, right, prospective patients are just calling the next place on Google if you don't answer. Simple as that. And then the reality is that humans typically can't reliably hit 5 minutes when they're in treatment all day, or even after business hours, right? So this isn't really about replacing your front desk. It's actually about making sure that no patients slip through the cracks while your team's busy. So here's an interesting, and also here's actually another question for you. Think about this, and this is going to be a really important, I think, next step from this for you all is what is your average response time? Is benchmarking that. Is it under 5 minutes? Is it 15 minutes to 30 minutes? Is it over an hour? Like you should have that clarity in terms of what exactly is your response time. Okay, now let's talk about the revenue or leak map, right? This is where a lot of revenue leaks throughout the entire life cycle, okay? Things like missed calls, things like after hours inquiries, slow replies, no shows, inconsistent consult closing, right? No rebookings. Referrals are happening, but there's no systematic way to generate them, or it's random. And typically speaking, most med spas don't actually lose patients because they're unhappy. They just simply lose them because nobody followed up in the right way at the right time. And that's an important takeaway as you kind of, if you could take anything away from this entire thing is that most med spas don't lose patients because they're unhappy. They lose them because there wasn't the right follow-up at the right time and generating that repeat demand. So obviously, all of this is a big problem if you're spending a lot of money on ads. This is kind of a good transition into the empty chair tax. Okay. The empty chair tax is basically when a chair in your spa goes empty. And really, a no-show isn't just one lost appointment. This is really for the in the context of a no-show. Okay, so you have booked an appointment, your schedule is full, but someone doesn't show up. That isn't just one lost appointment, it's actually the entire downstream, which means future treatments or, missed opportunities for upselling them to different memberships or packages or getting referrals from them. And most spas kind of treat reminder, or rather, they treat no-shows as kind of a reminder issue. It's like, oh, well, maybe they forgot about the appointment, and that's not really always the case. Most of the time, it's actually what we call a commitment design issue. What this means is that your patients, they have good intentions, right? They book an appointment with you, they have intentions of going, but things come up in their life, right? And they're just simply not as committed, okay, to showing up as you are to having them show up. And so top performing spas don't just get lucky, they actually like design commitment into their overall process. What that means is things like clear policies, sometimes having them put a deposit down upon booking, automated confirm or reschedule flows after booking, and a wait list that fills cancellations automatically. All of these things, right? These are the tactics that are important to implement because each of them kind of tighten the screws a bit, thereby improving your revenue leakage. Okay. And these systems, right? It's not about being strict. It's just simply about systematizing and being consistent. So you want to solve the empty chair tax. Now, okay, let's do a little bit of an audit, right? It's important to be self-aware here. So um, here's a quick exercise. Take 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever, and think about these things for a moment, right? Just write them down for yourself. You don't need to share them with us, but just write them down for yourself, right? What is your missed call percentage? And you can guess on this for now. That's fine, right? And I would check it, make sure later after this, just confirm these numbers. What is your missed call percentage? Is it 5%? Is it 30%? Is it worse? What is your response time to new leads? Is it immediate because you have an AI receptionist? Is it 30 minutes? Is it an hour? What does that look like? What is your no-show percentage? Is it one out of every 20 patients no show? Is it one out of every 50? Is it one out of every five? What percentage of those actually rebook? And then how about waitlist salvage, which means waitlist or salvage, meaning once someone does actually cancel, do you have a system that salvages that slot, that appointment slot for you? Yes or no? Last question for this audit is, do you have a referral system in place? Meaning, how do you get referrals? Is it just simply relying on the patient to share that with their friends and family? Or is it something that you incentivize them? Do you have you know, um, a program in place where you're providing 20% off their next service, or maybe they get some service discounted by $50 or $100? Is there a system in place? And do you remind them about this through texting and email? Okay, so that's the audit. Hopefully you're all thinking about what are these numbers? What are these answers for me? That's going to define, it's going to help you focus on where to put your energy. Okay, now that you've done that, I'm going to introduce a couple things to you. There's um, a few systems, I like to call them systems, that can help here. Okay, so the first is the response solution. Okay, the goal here, 5-minute responses every time without hiring. Okay, that's the key, right? Because we know how cash strapped um, spas typically are. We know how that's the case. And it's really important that we're not just hiring, filling a problem by hiring. That's not always the answer. And so that's the goal, right? 5 minutes response times. And it's not just about texting, it's about phone handling and SMS that works after hours, that routes based on who's available. And, this type of automation, this is really where automation comes into play, because automation should be handling your first contact. 24/7. And humans should handle consults. If you miss a call, right? If the system misses a call for whatever reason, or right, if you still have this kind of hybrid approach where you have an AI receptionist that's answering calls after hours, but you still are answering. Humans are answering your front desk. Humans are actually answering during business hours. An automated missed call text, something like sorry we missed you. Are you trying to book, get pricing, or ask a question?" Very clear, short, intent based, so you understand why they're calling. Then what it should do is it should route correctly. Again, we want to get this speed to lead under 5 minutes. And typically it's also smart to implement a light follow-up cadence over 24, 72 hours, which means if they didn't actually book, okay, sending reminders or sending a quick nudge. Hey, just wanted to check in. Are you still interested in X, Y, or Z that they had reached out to you before about, right? And this whole thing here, this isn't really marketing. It's really more about logistics than anything. It's helping your patients and potential patients get in touch with you in the right ways, and they'll thank you for it. Okay, second system that I want to talk to you about, or framework, is what we call the commitment framework. Okay. So system two is commitment. Reminders, right? That happen. I'm sure you all have some aspect of appointment reminders. Those are good, but they're passive. Okay. Commitment requires an actual decision. Confirm or reschedule. That's really important, right? So sending a confirmation flow 24 hours, 72 hours, 48 hours before their appointment, making sure they actively commit and confirm their appointment. Um, when appropriate, deposits or cards on file really do increase follow through really dramatically. The numbers are pretty impressive here. So having some deposit, even if it's $20, $10, $30, it's some commitment. That's really important to making sure that your patients follow through. Lastly, when someone cancels, there should be a system or a process in some capacity that goes ahead and salvages that spot. Okay. And it should be automated because it needs to be pretty quick. This is kind of the next point about the salvage loop. Okay. If someone cancels at 5:03 p.m., okay, for an appointment the next day, let's just say, um, there should be a system that triggers or a process that triggers. But again, automation here is kind of the goal that triggers checking the wait list at 5:04, okay, a minute later after the patient cancels. And then by the next minute, 5:05, sends an alert to the wait list. And then finally, having your chair filled just a mere 9 minutes after the cancellation. So that salvage loop is really important, and it turns cancellations into opportunities. Now, let's kind of put this together for a quick moment before I dive into deeper detail. So the first here is kind of an overall leak-proof system, right? First is catch, second is commit, and third is salvage. So you want to catch your leads, okay? Provide them an awesome experience when they're calling in, when they're reaching out, when they're filling out a form, whatever it may be. 5-minute responses always. Commit, making sure that there is an active sort of action that they have to take that commits them. So confirming their appointment, right? Putting a deposit down, things like this. Having a wait list, and then salvage, which is helping you fill those empty chairs, so you don't have a gap in your schedule. And like I said, like this isn't really marketing, right? This is just simply about it's a systems upgrade. This is about processes and systems. Um, like I said, you're going to be walking out of here with some gifts, and so I'll be sharing with you some best practices around creating standard operating procedures for things like this in setting up these systems. So you'll be receiving that. You don't have to, scramble to take a bunch of notes at this point. I want to dive a little bit deeper, okay, into each of the systems. The first is 5-minute response engine. Okay, it's about speed to lead. When a call is missed, most businesses they try to call back as soon as possible. They end up, generally speaking, calling back hours later. By then, the person's already moved on, right? The 5-minute response engine just simply makes sure that doesn't happen. Someone calls, no one answers. They should get a text within a minute. It's pretty simple. Sorry we missed you. Are you trying to book, get pricing, or ask a question? And this does two things. It acknowledges them immediately and it clarifies their intent. What are they reaching out about? That's really helpful for the follow-up. If they want to book, it should route them to the right person or it should send them a link. And if it's pricing, it should go to someone who can handle that. Okay, unless pricing is super clear. Third is if there's something that's more complex, it escalates. Systems should always be able to escalate to humans, especially something like an AI assistant or an AI receptionist here. This also should have some light follow-up over the next 24 hours if they don't respond. Just clarifying their intent, making sure that that they're handled, they're taken care of. The idea here is pretty simple. It's that automation should be handling the first touch and the routing. Okay. Now, your staff, understandably, you want your staff, you want a human to handle the real conversation, right? That's not going to replace people in that way. The goal here is just simply speed to lead, right? Automation, and then protecting your team from chaos so that they can spend their time on the most high leverage items, which is speaking to your patients, making them feel comfortable, making sure that they are taken care of. Okay, let's talk about the second system. This is commitments. Okay. We talked about reminders. It's not really a reminder problem. Typically speaking, this is a commitment problem. There's four, tactical, I guess you call them, initiatives, right, to implement here. Instead of, sending a passive reminder, you should have a flow that confirms or reschedules the appointment, right? An active action that's taken 24 to 72 hours beforehand. If someone does reschedule, they should get a direct link. No calling back and forth, no friction. If you put deposits or cards on file, that's really, really important, right? That's another aspect that helps to, align your commitment with your patients. And then there's a wait list, right? Having a wait list. So when someone cancels, the slot just doesn't sit there. The system checks the wait list and then offers it to someone who already wants that service. And then have it making this whole thing frictionless, right? With links that go directly to rescheduling, to putting a deposit on file, whatever that may be. These are four, very tactical initiatives to put into place as soon as possible. The third is autopilot growth. Okay, now this is kind of the really exciting piece. Everything that I just talked about before is kind of, very tactical. It's making sure that it's logistics. Okay, it's providing your patients a really good experience, making sure that you do something in a timely fashion. Logistics. Okay, this third system is really where things start to compound. So when someone cancels, okay, the salvage loop should fill that slot that same day, if possible. When someone completes a visit, the next visit shouldn't just depend on their memory, right? There should be a very simple rebooking message that goes out, right? And frankly, the ideal thing here is you're rebooking your patient before they leave. For those that don't rebook on the spot, there always is some, right? It's important to have that rebooking reminder that goes out at the right time. And referrals is the last piece. This is where, things can really compound because if you did all of the other things right, everything we just talked about from providing the entire life cycle of your patient, providing them an amazing experience, obviously providing them an awesome service when they come in. If you do all of that right, you're going to have a happy patient. And what's the best thing to do when you have a happy patient is really make sure that they're generating referrals for you because, you know, we work with a lot of spas that don't fully leverage referrals. They do so in a non-systematized way. It's random. Maybe they get a couple referrals. Maybe their referral percentage is less than 20%. It should be much higher. It should be more like 40 to 50%. A really interesting stat for you here is that something like, I might butcher the numbers, but it's something like 83% of patients say they want to refer, okay, when asked, but only 29% actually do. So there's a huge gap between those who want to refer and those who actually do, basically just simply because of, reminding them and making sure that you get to them at the right time and providing them an easy, frictionless way to do that, right? All of that is really important. Okay, this is where systems come into play. And especially with referrals, that's where it can compound, which is really powerful. If you have 20 to 40% of your patients that are generating a referral, okay, that means that the number of patients that you have grows and grows and grows. The percentage of referrals doesn't change, shouldn't change. If it's somewhere between 20 and 40%, let's just call it 30%, it shouldn't change. So when you have 100 patients versus when you have 1,000, you should be getting 30% referrals. That compounds, right? 100 patients becomes 130, becomes whatever 30% is of 130 plus 130, right? It just compounds and compounds and compounds. If you do this, have a really good referral system in place for, 5 years, that is a huge opportunity to probably something like double or triple the business because of that compounding effect with referrals. So that's the really exciting stuff. Last kind of thing I want to talk about before we talk about implementation here and how to actually do all of this is some quick ROI numbers. Now, I know I just talked about, I don't want this to get too boring here, but I think this is really, really potentially, illustrative of what this can do for your business. So let's say just some examples here. Okay. You're a mid-sized spa. You get about 180 inbound calls per month. You book consults from those calls. Okay. Let's just say your average new patient value for 1 year is $1,200. Okay. That's like a consult, that's treatments over time. That's not a single visit. That's lifetime for the year, $1,200. Okay. I don't think there's anything aggressive about that. Let's say back to our, audit that we did earlier. Let's say you miss 30% of your calls, 30%. That's 54 missed calls per month. Because again, you're receiving 180 calls a month. Okay. You're missing 30%. That's about 54 missed calls per month. Let's say that automation, if you have a system in place, recovers 25% of those, just a quarter of those. Okay. That's 13 recovered conversations, those that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Let's say half of those book, okay, conservatively. That's six new patients. Six new patients, $1,200 patient value for the year. That's an additional $7,200 of revenue per month. Okay. That's free money. Like, right. That's not spending more money on ads. That's just catching what's already there. And that alone, $7,000 extra per month, that alone should pay for any, additional like time and energy and resources that you spend setting up these systems. Now, second piece of this, okay, would be the no-show reduction. So let's say that you book 120 appointments per month. Your no-show rate is 12%. That means 14 empty chairs per month. Okay, 14 empty chairs without a system in place that salvages that inventory. That's a bunch of missed revenue, right? 14 times 1,200 or whatever your per appointment amount is. That's just 14 empty chairs a month. That's a lot that you're missing out on. So let's say that this commitment design process cuts that in half. So you recover 7 of those. If your average appointment value is, let's just say 350, that's 7 times 350 or about $2,500 a month recovered, right? That's very clear ROI right there. Finally, let's talk rebooking lift. So let's say that 100 patients completes a treatment per month. Right now, 40% rebook before they leave. That means 60 walk out without their next appointment set. And if you lift that from 40 rebooking before they leave to 55, that's 15 additional rebooks per month. Let's say average treatment again is around $400. 15 additional rebooks times 400 is $6,000 a month going forward in future revenue secured. Okay, so let's add all that up, right? That's a bunch of like theoretical numbers added together. The missed call recovery, was around 7,000 per month. No show reduction was around 2,500 bucks a month. The rebooking lift is around 6,000 a month. So all of that combined, if you implement every single thing that I talked about here today, you could be, and all those numbers are correct, you could be generating an additional $15,000 a month to your business. That's very, very meaningful. And that's not even perfect assumptions. We kind of modeled there like some pretty modest improvements. And so that's the power. That's the power of this, right? Is if you implement these systems, being able to generate, you know, a significant percentage increase in your business and growth. Okay. And this is all things that are happening already, right? So this isn't just like going out and spending a bunch more on meta ads or anything like this. This is just capturing what's already there. Okay, so let's make this real for a moment. Like let's talk about how to implement this, like as tactically as possible. Okay. So this is what should really happen over a 3 week period. I don't think this should take any longer than a 3 week period if you're really focused on it. The first is all about getting clarity. Okay. You pull information data from the last 30 days. How many calls came in? How many were missed? How fast are you actually responding? What's your no-show rate? How many people rebook before they leave? How many rebook later? Most owners and operators think they know these numbers, but when they actually look, it's pretty eye-opening. And so pulling this information is really important. All of that, just get clear on what those numbers actually are. Um, then there's a few decisions to be made. Okay, if a call is missed, what happens next? Who gets notified? Who counts? What counts as after hours? Who handles pricing questions? Then you can define, things like your commitment rules. What's your cancellation window? What does confirm actually mean? Does it mean you click a link? Do you have to respond back with confirmed? What does that mean exactly? Do you require a credit card on file? Do you require deposits? How does your wait list work exactly? None of this is stuff that's like super glamorous, but that's really where the leverage lies, right? And so the first week, it's not about, implementing a system or build or, like hiring a person or building software. Like it's simply about tightening up the way things are currently running. So that takes us from week one. Okay. That's just simply the foundation. It's measuring and defining. The second week is really about, okay, once I have all that clear and I know the vitals of my business, you can then go into the automation piece. Okay. And this is where you fix all of that, right? It's you install the engine, so to speak. So when let's just say someone calls, a call comes in at 2:14 p.m. Nobody answers. At 2:15, a text should go out. Sorry, we missed you. Are you trying to book, get pricing, or ask a question? That's going to solve a lot of what you just defined beforehand as the issues, the leakage. If they reply book, it should route them to the right person or send them a booking link. If they don't respond, gentle follow-ups that are automated that happen over the preceding 3 days. And it should work after hours too, right? It should handle phone and text and route based on who's available. Automation should handle the first touch. This is kind of where you put the systems, you install the engine, right? You put the systems in place. And then week 3 and beyond is really where you start to feel, yeah, obviously you're tweaking systems, right? You're making sure that it works well for your business, you're implementing, but like you start to really see the value pretty immediately. Okay. And put like things like putting this salvage loop into place. You're going to start to see it pretty immediately. All of this, is just happens on autopilot. Okay. It's just a matter of having these automated systems and this automation in place so that when someone cancels, it automatically rebooks. When, when there's a rebooking request that goes out for those that don't rebook on the spot. Same thing with referrals. They're not random anymore. You're systematically reminding your patients about referrals to refer a friend, etc. So in summary, the first week should just be about understanding where you are, benchmarking. Week two should be about installing the engine, and then week three should be about kind of turning on the loops that compound, right? Putting, getting the most out of each individual patient through rebookings and through referrals. Okay. Now, in closing, I know that we're about 15 minutes away from time, and I want to make sure that you get out of here. I know you have patients to see. So I do want to open up the floor for any Q&A in a moment here. But like I said, you'll be walking out of here with not only knowledge for how to like set up these systems and what these systems are, but some actual tactical guides and resources. And so here's what I'll be giving all of you. There is a 5-minute response SOP, which is standard operating procedure and scripts, okay, that we find to be best. Second would be templates for confirming and rescheduling that we have seen from top spas. The third is salvage and waitlist standard operating procedure. Fourth is rebooking and referral templates, and then five is an ROI calculator. So you can see before you even spend any time doing any of this, how if you plug in some numbers, what the result will be for your business. Now, there's another thing that I'm offering those that are here and have registered for this is, and it's totally optional, but I'm happy to do it for you if you'd like, is just a 10-minute, 15-minute, maybe implementation check, okay? To just kind of see where you're at, benchmark where you're at, understand where your biggest problems are, and I can answer any questions for you if you'd like. But we do this for a lot of different spas, and it's not even about, selling you anything. It's simply about helping you see what's out there and helping to guide you in the right direction. So I'm happy to do that for you. If like I said, I'll be reaching out with some of these resources, and with that, you'll have my email. You could reach out if you ever want to just have that, again, totally complimentary 10, 15-minute implementation check. Okay, that's all I got for you for now. What questions do we have? I know that there's, like I said, there's a raise hand feature. You can drop your questions into the chat. I am here for all of it. What has been swirling around in our heads? We'll wait a moment for everything to kind of flow in. Hopefully you all, maybe I just totally crushed it and maybe you all don't have questions, but I doubt it.
That would be my guess. So I'm going to put this up here too.
Mhm.
If anybody has questions, know that you can also email us at any time and we'll get those over to Dane as well. If you have something that you want to talk about with him specifically, we can facilitate that as well.
Absolutely. What do you think, Kara? Any questions that you have?
I didn't. I thought it was a really great overview of everything and some
Awesome.
actionable ways to actually implement this in your practice. Love the resources. It's a great opportunity for our practices.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we find this to be really, I mean, again, it's nothing super glamorous. It's just the stuff that works, and we see it work incredibly well for the spas we work with. And it's like I said, I walked through, some ROI examples, and in those examples, in total, $15,000 extra per
Yeah,
month. And so that's the kind of stuff that if you just kind of tighten, right, the screws a little bit, tighten the screws and fix leakages, it just drives a ton of value.
yeah, totally agree. It's one of the, I think, easier things to recapture the people that are reaching out to your practice, have already come, like, they maybe liked their service, but as you said, they just follow up isn't there to reschedule them. So I think it's one of the easier things that practices can do. Keeping customers in your business is much easier than attracting new customers. It's
Absolutely.
the revenue that's already there. You just have to
Absolutely.
capitalize on it.
For
So,
sure. For sure. Yeah. And it's also like a lot of, businesses are spending a lot of money on those leads. And it's
mhm.
like, okay, well, you want to get the most out of it. You want to really increase that lifetime value of that of
Yeah,
that customer, both direct and indirect, because there are referrals and other things that you can generate from those leads, but you're spending a lot of money. It's like you want to really capture that.
absolutely. I totally agree. Well, I don't see any questions coming through, so I will just assume that you did a fantastic job and nobody has any.
It's a great
Um,
assumption.
so I want to sincerely thank everyone for spending their day with us. I know how busy your practices can get, so it means a lot that you invested this time to improve your systems. Dane, thank you so much for such a practical and actionable presentation. If there's one key takeaway from today, I would definitely say most med spas don't have a marketing problem. They have a response commitment and salvage problem. So I think you went through that really well with all the practices. This is a recorded presentation, so we will be able to send this out and you can watch it again and make sure that you're getting the most out of it. But if that resonated with you, if you do feel like you don't have a marketing problem, you have a response commitment salvage problem, I encourage you to take the next step, review your numbers, identify your biggest leaks, and explore how automation can support your team. Dane shared some great resources with us, so make sure you take advantage of those and his offer of an implementation check if that appeals to you as well. And here at MRN, our goal is to connect you with vetted partners and real systems that drive measurable results. SurgePoint is one of those partners, and we're excited about the impact their platform can have for our members. So, Dane, thank you again for sharing your expertise and giving everyone a clear, structured roadmap. And to everyone who joined us, thank you for being part of the MRN community. We're here to help you treat your schedule like what it truly is: valuable, perishable inventory that deserves to be optimized. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you at our next session.
Awesome, Garrett. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.